Hey guys, welcome back. My name is the Crypto Analyst, and I hope all of you guys are having a good morning, evening, wherever you guys are from. Today we're going to be doing another cryptocurrency technical analysis on Ethereum to the US dollar. We're going to be talking about whether it's bearish or bullish and what exactly is happening in here, what we can expect in the price action of Ethereum moving forward, and where I expect it to go. So if you guys are interested, go and stick around for the video, and do not forget to hit the like and subscribe button, as it does help out the channel a lot. But that being said, we're going to dive right on into this because there's a lot to talk about revolving around Ethereum right now, especially with Ethereum paired to the US dollar. So let's go ahead and break this down because there is two major formations that I want to talk about before we move into some of these indicators and oscillators and discussing what all of this means as opposed to what the candle charts actually mean. So of course, we want to start this out with our order of operations, notifying that, hey, we do have an overlying support over here that's pretty hefty. And for the sake of keeping this simple, I'm going to go ahead and delete some of these resistances until then, because what we notice is, of course, this major overlying resistance on our 4-hour chart. Now, seeing this happen over here, we actually have our first touch point, our second touch point, our third touch point, almost had a fourth touch point, but since then we actually haven't had a touch point on this resistance in a while. And now what we're actually seeing on Ethereum is this flat level of resistance and this upsloping level of support, forming almost an ascending triangle pattern. But this isn't the only thing that we're seeing on here, because we're actually seeing two different formations. So of course we have to recognize that this is a resistance. Previously, we thought it was a little bit lower, so maybe it would have been around this area because we saw a lot of touches in this area. But now with the recent price rise, we're actually seeing a rising resistance over here, notifying that, hey, this could actually still be an ascending triangle. It'd be a little bit sloppy. It would be a little bit weird, but it's still possible, and it's still something that we can look at and at least have to notify and realize that there is some sort of resistance up here, whether it's an ascending triangle or not. So with that being said, we actually have that charted and we have that out right. And then now what we can do is put back in our previous resistance of this rising wedge. Now, a rising wedge is contradictory to a ascending triangle, because a rising wedge is actually bearish while an ascending triangle is bullish. So this asks the question, well, which one of these is for real? Which one of these is going to play out? And that's actually what we have to determine with technical analysis here, because it doesn't always just give us straight up black and white answers of whether this is bullish or bearish. Sometimes it actually does give us mixed opinions and mixed feelings for some of these cryptocurrencies, and then we have to decide for ourselves. So in this case, we actually have a very nice rising wedge, seeing as 1, 2, you can maybe even count this as 3 touches, now 4 touches on your support line, and then nearly 1, 2, 3, almost 4 touches on your resistance line. So this rising wedge is playing out beautifully, almost as beautifully as the ascending triangle. So now you're in between a rock and a hard place and trying to decide on whether Ethereum is essentially bullish or bearish, because with the rising wedge looking like it's playing out so beautifully, and then this ascending triangle in the entire Ethereum chart looking like it's playing out so nice. Well, what could happen here? Well, when I'm looking at this, again, I want to make sure I'm looking at the MACD and the RSI. Your MACD, you're seeing 3 tiers of lower levels of negative momentum on your MACD, essentially creating triple bullish divergence, but you're really not having any kind of a rally in this area. And in fact, if we actually draw up an arrow over here, we can kind of point towards this, zoom in a little bit, and realize that, hey, there really isn't much happening from this triple bullish divergence, or at least in the best double bullish divergence over here. There's really not much happening. So we could be seeing a little bit of bearish times coming over your way. You are seeing lower highs on your oscillators on a bigger time frame, but in the shorter time frame, I mean, again, you're still seeing higher highs on your short-term oscillators. So you can't be too angry. It's pretty neutral right now. Looks like it might be trying to round off. But then again, you still have your RSI, and this is what I think is one of the biggest indicators that this could be bearish rather than bullish, because of the fact that you have lower levels of positive momentum, both in the overbought territory on your 4-hour RSI, saying, hey, you came up, you got overbought, you came back down, you rallied back upwards, back into overbought territory on your RSI. You are oversold. Not only are you overbought again, but it's a lower overbought on a second rally. So it's not even in the same swing high. This is on a second rally. You're actually getting lower levels of positive momentum, indicating that, hey, you could be coming down here and testing this oversold territory of your RSI in the short-term future. But if we look at this on a daily, it's actually going to play out a little bit differently. Now, this is something that we were talking about on the live stream last night, is that on the daily, you actually still have room to go up here. And in fact, on the 4-hour, what could be a retrace back down to here to a higher high before rallying back upwards. I think that is probably one of the most popular and one of the most reasonable outcomes of Ethereum, is actually retrace here, still have a lower high, still have an area like this where you have a lower high, or a higher low, excuse me. You get a higher low, and then you rally back up towards the upside. And I think that that is one of the most probable things to happen to Ethereum, and so that a little bit of a retrace here could actually be a good thing, so that it can continue rallying upwards. But you do want to point out, again, the MACD is saying a little bit bearish on the 1 day, as you are having, you essentially are seeing these levels of positive momentum fall off one block at a time, 1 day at a time, 1 bar at a time on your MACD chart. So keep that in mind. It's not bearish yet. Your oscillators are still pointing basically straight up, but it could be time for Ethereum to pull back a little bit. It's kind of a do or die time for both Bitcoin and Ethereum, because people are looking at them and trying to have them break out, when in reality, you know, some of these things might need to retrace. You know, they've had a great run so far. If we look at this on this 1 day chart, I mean, again, it looks absolutely great, but what we don't want it to do is go parabolic. Going parabolic is always a bearish thing to do. It's not healthy for the markets, and it actually hurts it more than it helps it. So I think it would be a great idea if this thing came back down, got a little bit of consolidation, and then continued moving upwards, so that it was able to contradict this falling wedge. Or, you know, if you can contradict this falling wedge by just breaking out at this point, I think that would be really good as well, because then what you can do, if we switch this back to the 4 hour, is actually contradict this falling wedge, and either by breaking upwards, or you can confirm it by breaking down. Now, if it was to break upwards, let's go ahead and talk about targets. So targets, where would it go if it broke upwards, and where would it go if it broke downwards? Okay, I want to break down and talk about this right now. So I actually own some Ethereum, so I can talk about this and I guess justify it. But if I'm looking at this and where I believe that this would go, if this was some sort of like an ascending triangle pattern, or maybe this is just bullish. I mean, you can call this a bunch of different things. Some people are calling this ascending triangle. Some are just saying it's a bullish parallel channel or something like that. But me personally, regardless of that, where would I see resistance start hitting if this was to break out? And I think that we could actually see Ethereum, if it breaks the 160 mark, which is where it's really currently having a lot of resistance, I think that then you're going to see it immediately go up, probably hit about 172, 173, hit some resistance in there, maybe consolidate for a second. But if it can get through that, I think Ethereum is pretty clear to move back up to close to $200. And again, this is where you're really going to start getting some resistance again, because as we can see in this area, these are resistance levels. All this consolidation and candle body closings in this area are going to act as resistance, and once you break them as resistance, they're going to be used as support. The same thing is going to happen with this 160 area. Once you break it, it's going to be turning into resistance instead of support, or it's going to be turning into support rather than resistance. So I could see us essentially, maybe if we are to break out right now, probably move up, hit somewhere in here, maybe consolidate for a bit, then go up and start testing some of these levels and consolidating until we can actually start conquering some of these higher highs. Now, again, there's going to be a ton of resistance in this area, so just keep that in mind when you're trying to conquer all this stuff. You have resistances, so you have essentially 2 layers of resistance in here, one at this area and one at this area. So when we're conquering these, you are going to have to recognize that there is going to start being heavier resistance the higher that we get up. But on the bright side, if you can actually go through and start conquering some of these levels, I mean, if we're looking at this, then again, you have a pretty fair run. If you can break the like 230 range, you could run yourselves all the way up to maybe like 250, 260, probably maybe even 270 over here, because this is where your next layer of resistance is at. So it's going to have to kind of break this in layers, and that's really how it's going to come down for Ethereum. Now, let's just say that this does break down. You are a bear, and this is what you want to happen. Well, if that's the case, then we're going to have to go over to Ethereum, and we're going to have to say, hey, this is what it would likely do. So let's just say we fall to this falling wedge. The first thing that we're going to do as these EMAs kind of come up here a little bit more, they're going to meet around this area. So it's going to be probably around 146 is where your EMAs are going to, your 50-day EMA and your 50-day MA are actually going to meet right around here at around 145 on your USD Coinbase chart. If it were to break this, I would imagine that it goes down maybe even a little bit more to around 140. Again, this is where you have your primary support outside of your falling wedge. If it doesn't catch here at around the 140 range, then I think that you would keep falling until you hit your 200 EMA, probably somewhere around this range, which would be around 127, 128, that whole range in here, because this would keep on going up until it met, and then these two would meet somewhere at a happy medium. So that would act as its third and final support. Besides that, you really don't have much until you get back down to around this $90 to $85 or $80 to $90 range in this area. So I think that you need to really start holding supports. If it does break down here, I would like to see it fall out of this falling wedge, come and retest support past the 50 EMA, and then rally back upwards. That's what I would personally like to see. I think that that would be one of the healthiest things for it, is showing that it does actually have good volume, getting some better volume on its chart. But I do want to point out one thing, because we were talking about this on the live stream yesterday. Someone was asking, well, do we even have the volume to rally and break out from Ethereum at this point? Do we even have the volume? Like, would it be good for us to do that at this point? Because, you know, rallying with no volume is just as bad as falling, essentially, because it just creates a worse situation. It makes a bad situation worse. And in fact, what we're seeing over here is higher levels of volume consistently on our volume chart. So this is, as of right now, you know, Ethereum isn't looking that bad. I will say, in the very, very short-term future over here, if we do want to zoom in just a little bit more and drag this down, then what we're going to see, in fact, is that we are getting a little bit lower levels of volume in the very short term from the past couple hours. But up until this point, and this is, again, this still has plenty of time to change around, but up until this point, you've been seeing higher levels of volume, especially higher levels of positive volume, building on top of each other over here. And so as of right now, there's really no reason to say that it's not going to work out, but it's still possible, right? It's still possible. I'm going to drag that again so you guys can see it. But don't forget, you know, the fact that we are seeing volume sticking under our 20-day volume moving average. Keep that in mind, because the volume, it looks like it could start disappearing. So if you're liking this, my personal belief and what I believe is going to happen to Ethereum here is that it's actually going to break down, touch support, rally over here, and then rally back up towards the upside. That's what I would love to see happen to Ethereum in a perfect world. You know, it might just be too bullish for that right now. It might be too bearish to the point of where it touches the 200 EMA. The firm believer of why I believe this is the 200 EMA, the RSI for the Ethereum 4-hour chart. That is the big believer, or the big mind changer for me in deciding why this is going to happen. I think that the RSI, while it should never be used as a primary trading tool, is an area right now, or at least a tool at this point, that's showing me, hey, this thing's ready to see a little bit of a downside. You're seeing double bearish divergence. It's not looking too hot, and it needs to reach us at least some sort of a lower level before it can start rallying upwards again. So I hope that made sense. I know I ranted for a solid section during this video, but I think for the most part, you guys were able to understand and get some value out of this. And I think it was pretty useful, because we outlined a lot of cool stuff, again, relating to this RSI chart, I think playing a big part in the Ethereum future, at least saying that, hey, you are going to see some sort of a downside in the short-term future of Ethereum. That's just almost always how, when you see something like this, that's almost always how it ends up. So those are my predictions for Ethereum. Again, none of this was meant to be legal, financial, or tax advice in any way, but I did hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, do not forget to hit the like and subscribe button, as it does help out the channel a lot. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. I want to know what you guys think about this. Are you guys bullish, or are you guys bearish? I want to know in the comment section below. And as always, guys, if you guys want to join the Discord or Patreon or anything like that, there are links to all of that in my social media in the in the description down below. So if you guys want to join those, go ahead and into the description, give them a look. But I hope you guys did enjoy, and until next time, guys, I will see you in the next video.